Greetings once again. My name is Joseph Mass, and on the screen here you see a gentleman that is Ben Shapiro, and of course next to him is Colin Kaepernick, the Nike ad that has come out here recently, and Ben Shapiro is offering commentary on this. I want to play some of his thoughts here in just a moment. I did a couple of videos on Candace Owens and released them a few days ago, and just just highlighting a lot of the inconsistencies in her view and her argument, and a similar thing here. I came across this video, and I've admired in many ways Ben Shapiro as far as his argumentative abilities. I've heard him just argue brilliantly on certain issues. But it's amazing how a person can be brilliant. I guess I don't even know how to put this. Brilliant when they want to be, because in this particular piece, it's in my opinion, it's just some foolish reasoning that I know he's capable of better, and it just shows you how a person can be powerfully sound when it's convenient for them to be so, but all of a sudden just begin to exhibit, in my opinion, buffoonery when they are challenged to deal with something that they don't want to be truthful about. I mean, he's been caught here in just a blatant lie. But let's two things that I want to highlight in this piece. But let's play some of this. Let me make sure my audio. Let's play some of this.
Right. Okay, so there's so many elements of this that are just fabulously ironic. First of all, this social justice warrior campaign to sell sneakers produced by small children in Vietnam, presumably.
Okay, let me stop right here. Produced. This is his, I guess, attack on Nike because, obviously he doesn't appreciate Nike's support of Colin Kaepernick. Now, again, when you have facts and information and things that, support your claim, that's one thing. But when now, this whole business of Nike's labor practices and who's making these shoes, now, no one should be abused or taken advantage of by any company. I believe that. I'm just wondering, many companies that if you really got behind the curtains and and began to look, would you not see things such as this if it is true? He said presumably, meaning he's not sure, but that didn't, whether it was really factual or not, didn't stop him from including it in his piece. But some of the hypocrisy I feel I see here with his whole concern now is, where was that concern last year? I mean, I'm not aware that Nike has done a tremendous overhaul in terms of their labor practices. If Mr. Shapiro was so concerned about Nike's labor practices and how they did business, why didn't he say something last year? Why is it all of a sudden now a problem because Nike has decided to support Colin Kaepernick? So that's a little shady to me. So I'm not feeling the genuineness in that. Again, if you were that concerned about Nike, why didn't you say something last year? I mean, he's a super researcher, I assume. Where was all that concern about the little children? And again, if Nike's doing that, they need to be dealt with. But I guarantee you, if you deal with Nike on that, you're gonna have to deal with a lot of these individuals that's outsourcing and doing things of that nature. Now, I'm not saying it's right, okay, but I'm just concerned with, I think it's a little dubious to all of a sudden Mr. Shapiro is concerned about Nike's labor practices suddenly. And so I find that that's a little dubious there. But let's listen further.
It's kind of hilarious. Watching the entire left resonate around a huge billion-dollar company, a huge corporation that allegedly exploits child labor in third world countries because, hey, Colin Kaepernick, that's pretty hilarious.
Okay, again, I would have appreciated this portion of his comment a little bit more if I had heard him speaking out against Nike last year, or prior to this release. But all of a sudden, you got this great concern. You a little bit too late, in my opinion.
It is also kind of hilarious that the slogan itself, believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything, it's a really dumb slogan. In fact, it's basically Thanos' slogan from Avengers Infinity Wars. Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing half of humanity. What you believe is actually the key issue. I mean, if we're actually going to take that slogan seriously, believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything, it's not about believing in something. It's about what you believe in. The question is, are you believing the right things? Colin Kaepernick is not. He's never provided a shred of data to support his assertions that black people in the United States are being disproportionately shot by police because, in fact, they are not.
Okay. In fact, they're not. Now, again, Mr. Shapiro is, I've heard him in different presentations and whatnot. He's a sharp gentleman, and he appears to, be, he appears to be a keen researcher and looking for information. Now, he just made a statement there that Colin Kaepernick has not provided a shred, not a shred, meaning that nothing exists. And as much of a research hound as Mr. Shapiro, I mean, I would think that would imply that he certainly has not found anything. Because why would you get on a national or however international program and make such a statement if, because the implication of what he's implying, number one, Kaepernick hasn't provided a shred of evidence, and it somewhat implies then that none exists, because in that statement it would seem that he's suggesting that I certainly haven't found any myself. I'm a research hound, and I research and I look for the facts and so forth. So, Kaepernick hadn't provided anything. Okay, that sort of implies that, nothing exists, because, I would think that if he wanted to be factual in what he states and what he dispenses to the people, that he might have at least did a little bit of a search himself to make sure. But he said, in fact, though, he goes forward. So he actually does imply that he has done some research. And in fact, there's no evidence whatsoever that would suggest that black people or African Americans are being shot disproportionately at a rate that's disproportionate to other nationalities. Okay. Let me do a little experiment here. Now, folks, I'm not, I know that there's a way to, to do a screenshot and have the screenshot right there on the screen. And I'm not that advanced yet. I just started this a few weeks ago. So, I'll get that down here in a moment, eventually. But let me try something here. The screen that you see, there's a computer screen. And I'm going to do a search myself, just right here. And let's see what we can pull up on this business of, are black people shot at a disproportionate rate by police than anyone else. That I think that would be a simple search to do. And Mr. Shapiro says absolutely not. There's no facts, no evidence whatsoever that, and he said, in fact, it's not so. Okay, well, let's come with me now. I'm gonna be out the screen for a second. Again, I'm not all that tech savvy and got everything straight, but work with me. We building this thing. Okay, but let's move this out of the way, and I got a lot of stuff on my desktop, folks. But let's hit the blue E and bring up. Okay, and let's do this. Let's type in, let's say black I don't type well, folks. Well, here we go. Let's say blacks disproportionately shot. Okay. Now let me I want this to be, I'm gonna move this, folks. Again, I'm not the best at all of this technology, so we doing what we can at the moment until we can get screenshots and all of that. Okay, now hopefully we can see some of that. Okay, this is what came up when I said blacks disproportionately shot. Okay, now the first item says police killings of blacks. Here is what the data says. Okay, this appears to be from the New York Times. Let me see what this. Well, let's read this part down here and see if that helps us. If not, we'll go into the article. October 18, 2015, according to the FBI supplementary homicide report, 31.8% of people shot by the police were African Americans, a proportion more than 2.5 times the 13.2% of African Americans in the general population. In other words, I think they're saying that there's 13.2%. African Americans make up 13.2%, but they were shot. On homicide report, 31.8% of the people. They make up 31.8% of the people shot by police, but they're just 13.2% of the total population. Let's open up this and see if we get anything. Get a little bit more here. It's Tamir Rice. I have space. Let me see. See what we got. If it's anything we can grab that will give us any indication. I'm not saying the police. Let's see here. This might take a minute, folks. We're just trying to see what we can pull up. We already read that no special insight into the psychology of police officers or into the complicated forensics involved in such cases. Answering this question is any single situation can be difficult and divisive. Two outside experts this month concluded, for example, that the shooting of Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old boy in Cleveland who was carrying a toy gun, was a reasonable, if tragic, response. That will hardly be the last word on that subject. Okay, let me look a little bit further. I'm trying to see. The data is unequivocal. Police killings are a race problem. Wow, okay. This might be something. Right here, if you can see my pointer, the data is unequivocal. Police killings are a race problem. African Americans are being killed disproportionately and by a wide margin. Okay, that's the very first one I went to, people. That's the New York Times as well. Let's go to this one. Study finds police fatally shoot unarmed black men at. Let's see what this says. Black individuals shot and killed by police were less likely to have been attacking police officers than white individuals. Let's open this up and see, because that didn't make too much sense right there. Let's see what we got here. Study finds police fatally shoot unarmed black. Wait a minute. Okay, this is jumping all over the place for some reason. Okay. Study finds police fatally shoots unarmed black men at a disproportionate rate. There's another article that seems to say the same thing. A new academic study that builds on Washington Post research into fatal shootings by police has found that unarmed black men were shot and killed last year at a disproportionately higher rate, and that officers involved may be biased in how they perceive folks. Ben Shapiro just said, oh, there's not a shred of evidence of this anywhere. This is the Washington Post. We just read the New York Times. Let's go to the next one. Are blacks disproportionately involved in police This is Powerline. Oh, this is somebody's blog, so I don't know what we're gonna get. Let's try to find the society page. Let's see what this says though. Liberals might argue that blacks are disproportionately the victim of unjustified. Well, we just saw in 2 reports. This is somebody's blog. I'm not interested in that. Let's see. The evidence is clear that some police, law enforcement tactics, traffic stops. Let's open this up. This is a police bigoted. The New York Times. Well, we're not saying that they're necessarily bigoted. Not all of them, but we just looking for, is there any information that police shoot black people more than others? Well, the first 2, New York Times, Washington Post. I'm gonna take that as probably the most credible. I'm not concerned about people's blogs and their personal opinions. We looked at two the society page. We looked at the first 2 items that we pulled up, just a simple little cursory search, and this is what we found. And but yet Ben Shapiro says unequivocally that no, there's not a shred of evidence, no facts, nothing. But we just read 2 reports, one by the New York Times, one by the Washington Post, that clearly says the difference. Now, Ben Shapiro, being the man of research that he is, folks, that was a simple search. That was an easy search right there. Again, I'm not interested in people's blogs and personal opinions, but we just read 2 articles from, and this says, according to the FBI Supplementary Homicide Report, the New York Times report, and then we read from the Washington Post, and it clearly says this is the case. But yet Ben Shapiro just point blank lied on his post without a second thought. Now, folks, I don't know. This is the type of thing that it's just hard when you're dealing with this issue, when you have people that have platforms as powerful as his, and with all, it just shows you the blinders that people put on, because as sharp as he is, but he couldn't do a bit of research unless he wants to take issue with and say, well, the New York Times article, I think, is a lie. The Washington Post, I think they're lying, and whoever wrote that article. But he just comes out and says, no, there's no evidence. It's not true. Well, that's an absolute lie, because the statistics are saying otherwise. And it just shows you how people just, stick their head in the sand, and things that are as blatant and obvious as this and reported on as frequently. The first 2 items in the search, that's what came up. And so it's very disappointing that you have individuals with platforms such as his that would just blatantly lie like that. And this is why Kaepernick is kneeling. And God bless him. I pray he continue to kneel. Because when I see foolishness like Shapiro just demonstrated in his, well, you're gonna not take no consideration of clear information and data that's out there, and get on your program and just blatantly lie. Okay. Well, I have many more videos that I'm preparing folks to deal with this, and I'm not done exposing the foolishness that I'm seeing, both now from Shapiro, from Candace Owens. This is just the tip of the iceberg. So I would advise you, or say, stay tuned.